Alrighty, thanks guys for joining on YouTube and the ones live. Thank you so much for joining today. Today is all about mindset, and the reason why I want to talk about mindset today is because I'm a firm believer, and that's the biggest reason why we procrastinate, why we feel overwhelmed, and we want to actually look at breaking that kind of cycle. Now, just in the room, who here feels like they do suffer from either some form of procrastination or some form of feelings of overwhelm, and would like other avenues to look at to break that kind of cycle? Yeah? Cool. So I suffered from this for a long time. I didn't really understand it. I didn't really know why I was procrastinating. I didn't really know why I would feel so overwhelmed. I thought that it was a matter of, needing to organize my day better. I thought it was a matter of needing to, get smarter. I thought it was a matter of, trying to work out how I can be able to not be lazy. There were so many different aspects that I thought were the right answers, and individually, as a one-off thing, they weren't, but collectively, there were increments or aspects of those things that were. So it's quite important that we all understand that when it comes to the mindset around why we procrastinate and why we do things the way that we do them, it's always good to understand why we procrastinate, why we feel overwhelmed, but there's no point just sitting there and doing nothing else. You need to really look at breaking that cycle and what actually works to break the cycle. Now, two people that I look at and listen to and study from a lot, who are in positions that I want to be in, Myron Golden and Daniel G. So a lot of today's content is based off some of the things that I've taught about either directly or indirectly as well. So when we look at procrastination, I don't believe that procrastination is laziness. Because a lot of the people that I know, like you guys in the room, none of you are inherently lazy, but you all suffer from periods of time where you do procrastinate or you do feel overwhelmed. So procrastination in itself is not a character flaw, and it's not proof that you're undisciplined. It's a symptom, and then your mind is protecting you from something. Usually it's around fear, around being overloaded, or a lack of clarity. For me, it was fear. And for some part of it as well was a lack of clarity. So most people just treat the symptom, right? And if you treat the symptom, it always comes back. So when we find the cause, it stops. Very similarly to health, right? If we keep treating the symptom, the cause is always going to be there. The symptom might subside for a bit, but that comes back, and usually it comes back even harder. So we need to look at the root cause. And the shift that I did for myself and that I like to teach is we need to stop asking, why are we lazy? Why are we lazy? We need to stop asking that kind of question, and we need to start asking, this procrastination per se, what's it actually protecting me from? Generally speaking, if you're procrastinating because of a fear of failure, right, or a fear of success, or because of the fact that you feel very overloaded and there's a lot on your plate and there's a lot to think about, so you just push it to the side and you leave it, or you're just not clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it all. So that therefore might cause a bit of procrastination. So when you start asking, what is this protecting me from, you start to actually ask the deeper questions. And when you ask the deeper questions, you get clearer answers. So one of the things that I like to talk about as well is overwhelm. There are two symptoms, but there's the one root cause. Procrastination and overwhelm feel very different, but they essentially come from the same place. And it's a mind carrying more than it can safely process. So I'll say it one more time. A mind carrying more than it can safely process. What's our brain? What does our brain prioritize? Itself. Safety of itself. This is why sometimes when we're working out in the gym and we get to that really hard part of the workout, our brain will tell us, I can't, because it's designed to protect itself, sorry. Right? The nervous system is designed to protect the nervous system and the survivability of the body. So you put yourself in a stressful situation, in a situation that's unfamiliar to you, the body's not going to look at itself as it's in a safe place, especially from a mindset or a mind perspective. So when we have overwhelm, it's too much coming in, there's no system to sort it, and the brain freezes rather than prioritizes. When we look at procrastination, the output of that freeze, okay, and is usually avoidance, usually becomes the safest available action. Who can relate to some degree? Yeah? That was me for a while. The overwhelm, not necessarily, but the procrastination was one of the things that I did. But then upon, the more I think about it, the more I kind of look into this kind of stuff and ask deeper questions as to why, I wasn't clear. And then when I was clear, there was fear. And then when there was fear, there was, I'll do it later. Oh, it's not really that important right now. I don't need to worry about it. One of the biggest ones was making phone calls because of a fear of rejection. That used to always be the thing that stopped me from making phone calls. Now, I don't care. Now, I ask a question. If they respond back with a no, okay, next. It's not a big deal anymore, right? But in my early days of my career, it was definitely a big thing. And I think I blew it up bigger than my head than it actually was, right? So, cause number one. I'm going to go through a few different things today around the different types of causes. And I just want you all to kind of take this on with an open mind and really understand that when we look at these types of things, it's really important to look at it from, okay, this may not be directly applicable to you, but aspects of it may be applicable to you. And overall, there's always something that you can be able to take away, implement straight away, which is the goal, to get you to be that 1% better than you were yesterday. Does that sound fair? Yeah? Now, the fear of getting it wrong. Who here in the room feels like they've ever suffered from that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Not doing something because you don't want to get it wrong? Yeah, that was me for a bit of time too, especially when I was doing the phone calls or the presentations or the sales scripts or whatever it might be. And it's not because I was bad. It's because of the way our brain is. So our brain treats uncertainty as if it's a threat, right? It's not a convenience, right? It's very, very much something that is it's literally like a life or death situation to the brain. It's not something as simple as what I wrote there as an inconvenience. An inconvenience we can get over. A threat, something that is quite serious to the brain. So when a task carries risk of failure or judgment, it delays action to avoid the perceived danger. Right? Delay feels like safety. Who can relate? Yeah? So one of the biggest things that I can relate this to for myself, which I'll give you guys an example of, is my talks. Right, for a long time, I didn't do these kinds of talks as big as I'm wanting to do them now because of this stuff. I don't want to be put in front of people and judged. All right? I don't want to be put in front of people and mess up or get it wrong or say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or look silly on camera, whatever it might be. So the fear of failing publicly, the fear of being judged, and the fear of starting something that you can't finish well, or that you feel that you can't finish well. Those first two in particular, they were me for a long time. Yeah, and they're the things that hold me back. They're the things that hold a lot of people back from just achieving or even coming close to achieving their full potential. Number two, when there's too many inputs and no filter, you start to lose a lot of clarity. So like, when we put the to-do list together, and there's like 50 things. We'll start with as 5. And then we brain dump, and that 5 turns to 20. And then we brain dump even more, that 20 turns to 50. And then we look at it and we think to ourselves, where do I start? And then what do? We close the book and we go, I don't want to deal with that right now. That's another way that we procrastinate, and it's because there's too many inputs and we're not filtering out either the unimportant things or actually understanding what's the most important thing to do right now. So as that first point says, there's no clear priority. So there's a tool that I use to prioritize my tasks. And I put like a big cross in the middle of a page or a whiteboard or whatever it might be, and I have most important, secondary, delegate, and remove from my list. The last two, I don't look at, I don't do. The first two, the goal is to do the most important 3 things, and then the other 3 that follow, if I have time in the day to do them, I'll get them done. Now when we look at that, too many inputs and no filter, one of the biggest things that most people need to understand is that to-do list makes you feel like everything's an urgent thing to do and everything's important. Do you need to check? Who's that?
I think it's Nancy.
Okay. Everything feels like it's urgent, everything feels like it's really, really important. So that gives us no clarity on what to actually do and what to actually start with. Give me an example, anybody here that has figured out a way to be able to break down that to-do list to actually get you to do things that you need to get done that are really important, that move the needle forward.
You just make the task simpler.
Yep.
Maybe, I don't know,
There's no wrong answer.
Step by step of what the specific things that you actually need to do within that task.
Mm-hmm.
So break it down, and you can have different days where you can say, this is where I do this, and then after I've done that, the next day I need to do this, and then once you've completed that, you can go on to the next task.
Cool. So you've organised what you term as a bit of a filter, right? So which is good. So that filter gives you clarity, right? So instead of going, I've got to do these 20 things, which one do I start with first? Or really important, I've got to get it done by today. Then you just feel overwhelmed and you push it aside, and then you just go for the easy stuff. Instead of doing that, you're going, okay, these are the things I need to get done. This one in particular, which is first, I'll start with that. What are the steps that I need to do to make sure that task gets completed? Yeah? And then you do that, say for example today, and then tomorrow I'll move on to the next thing. That's your filtering system, which is great because it clears your mind, it gives you clarity, and then it gives you the direction. And then you've organized a priority list for yourself with what needs to get done. That's really, really good. That gives you less what we term as decision fatigue. Most of us suffer from decision fatigue, not necessarily not enough things to do. Right, we suffer from trying to make too many decisions in one day, but by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, our brain's already fried and we've only worked for 3-4 hours. Yeah, so this is where, in order to get productive and not just stay busy and like muddled in the mind, we need to limit the amount of inputs. It's okay to have a to-do list. It's not okay to use that to-do list as your guide though. It's okay to understand that there is going to be a lot of different tasks that have to get done within a week. It's not okay to try to do them all in a day. Do you get what I mean? And you actually have to accept the fact that they're not all going to get done in a day, right? Maybe that even 2 things done in a day is all you can manage, which is great because it's 2 things that you didn't get done the day before. Imagine when you compound those 2 things over a week. 5-day working week, there's 10 things done. Compound that over a month. That's 40 things done. Compound that over 6 months. Yeah? That's a lot of stuff done. 240 things done in 6 months is really good.
And if you need to, you can just have certain times to do certain things.
Yeah, block out time.
You
Yep.
use your calendar, how you have certain times to have lead generation, and you only give yourself like an hour. Then you move to the next task. So you carry that on, even if you do need to do other tasks. At least you're working out everything instead of just one particular thing, and it takes you longer than what it needs to.
Yeah. So instead of spending a day trying to do 10 things, I block out, hour by hour, and I have just a lot of clarity. So I limit the amount of inputs, and I filter out what doesn't need to happen, and I focus on what's really important and help me move the needle forward. That's my way of doing it. Everyone has their way, but the purpose of what I'm trying to get at with this cause is that without a clear filter for what matters most, the mind can't decide, so it shuts down instead. Right? How many of us have been there? Yeah? We all have. So the goal is to really get you to understand that you need to just not have too many inputs. Clear it out, make it nice and clear. One of the funniest things you said to me was like, I'm barely doing anything on my shift. Like, am I even like working? And I'm like, yeah, I've simplified what you do to make you more productive at the tasks. So I simplify what Judy does and I simplify what I do. That makes us more productive and more clear on the tasks I need to get done every day, which moves the needle forward. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Actually, I don't know why I said that, because I do have things to do.
We all do, I know. It was just a lot less than what you were doing
I think that day was a lot less.
Maybe, but it was in general it was a lot less than what you were doing previously because you were managing 4 or 5 different things. Now we've kind of culled it down a bit.
I still feel like it's the same.
It's not, but it's okay. Okay, now motivation. Clause number 3: motivation instead of systems. Sometimes we'll start our day, we're very keen, we're very excited, and then we go in and we just get overwhelmed again, and then motivation does what? Tanks again. It's because motivation is a feeling, right? And feelings are inconsistent by nature. They don't show up on demand, but systems do. So Anna explained a really good way that she has a system set in place. So she's not relying on being motivated to get shit done. She just has a system that she follows, which allows her to be able to get things done as effectively as possible. I have a system. I'm sure, Alex, you have one. I'm sure you have one as well, Julie. The purpose of this is that you need to understand that motivation and relying on things like willpower, not having a routine to fall back on. You're going to have good days at work, and then you're going to have bad days, and the bad days don't always work out well, right? These things are not going to give you progress. These things are going to cause you to be frustrated time and time again. So have a good system set up, so even when you're not motivated, you're not relying on that regardless. You're looking at the system, and the system will dictate how the day runs, or be more inclined to get you to be more productive and get stuff done well. Now, perfectionism in disguise is another cause. This is a big reason why people procrastinate. You know, if you look at the right hand side of the screen, I'll start when I'm ready. There's a lot of planning, and a lot of ideas on the whiteboard, for example, but there's no action. And there's an all or nothing approach or thought pattern to what they do. I'm gonna wait till I got everything set up, then I'm gonna go all in. Or I'm gonna go all in and do everything, but I don't really kind of have a plan or a system set up to be able to make sure I can stay consistent. I'll start when I'm ready, which, as we know, no one's ever ready. You just gotta get started, right? And then the endless planning is just a way to make themselves feel better about the fact that they've got a really cool idea, but then they look at it and they're scared because they're not clear on the steps that need to happen. And a lot of that stuff is, especially around like the perfect plan, a lot of that stuff comes down to lack of understanding as to what's actually involved with the goal that you want to achieve. So when I do my whiteboard sessions, for example, I'm not necessarily focused on the end goal. I'm focused on what? I've mentioned this to you guys before. I'm focused on the daily tasks that we have to get done, right? So those daily tasks are the only things in my diary, for example, or in my calendar, because they're the things that are going to allow me to move the needle forward. There's a reason why they're in my to-do list, or they're in my calendar, sorry. It's because those daily tasks are the things that are going to compound over time to get me towards that goal that I want to achieve. I don't focus on a goal, because a goal gets me overwhelmed and you know, floods my brain with a lot of input. And then I look at it like, whoa. But when I break it all the way down and I simplify the input, I don't have to wait till I'm ready. I know what to do. I can start right now. All I gotta do is just get the momentum by just putting action down. Does that make sense? All right, so we have what's known as the anxiety loop. You got overwhelmed by nature creates anxiety. Anxiety drives avoidance. Avoidance creates more to deal with later, which creates more overwhelm. And then around it goes until something breaks the loop. Okay, and that something that breaks the loop is the clarity. The reason why we get overwhelmed is because there's too much input and no clarity, right? So I've been there before. It's been it was a constant thing for a long time, right? And the reason why I've been there before is because I had all these grand big ideas, all these grand big plans, but I didn't spend enough time actually understanding what those plans had to look like, because it was just like chasing the next shiny thing. But the next shiny thing reminded me that there's a lot of work to get done. The work would overwhelm me because there was so much, so I'd avoid it. Or the fear of being rejected would come back in. I'd avoid the phone calls, I'd avoid the growth stuff, I'd avoid putting myself in an uncomfortable position to learn something new as a part of the process of getting better. So there's all these different things that I was avoiding because of two things: feeling really overwhelmed, but a lot of fear was there as well. And so if you look at a quote from Myron Golden from one of his TEDx talks that I listened to, procrastination is always a symptom of anxiety. And I tend to believe that. When you procrastinate, a big part of that is a deeper level of anxiety that you have, because you haven't been able to really understand what is clear, because you've allowed too much overwhelm to take over your brain. You guys with me? And so as I was saying before, what breaks the loop? Clarity breaks the loop. How do we get clear? We need to find our purpose. All right? Either our own purpose or the purpose in what we're doing, like the purpose of the task at hand. Right? So if someone's doing something just for the sake of doing it and they're not clear on it, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done, they're going to feel kind of anxious, or they're going to feel overwhelmed, or they're going to procrastinate in some way, shape, or form by doing, you know, very low-level tasks that aren't actually moving the needle forward, so to speak. So anxiety thrives on uncertainty. The fastest way to lower it isn't more effort, it's actually more clarity. And more clarity in particular on what you're doing, why it matters, and what the very next step actually is. Mindfulness and leadership coach Daniel, I'm just going to call him Daniel G, teaches that people stay stuck not from a lack of ability, but from a lack of clarity about their own purpose and direction. Once someone gets clear on where they're actually headed, hesitation loses its grip. So that whole concept that I got was not exactly word for word what he's saying, I'm paraphrasing him, but it was a lot of what he teaches is about that. And he's very good in sales, right? And sales is one of those things where You need to be clear on what you're doing and the purpose of the sale, because if you don't, you're going to get caught out, you're going to get overwhelmed, you're going to be anxious, you're going to have fear, and then the person on the other end is going to smell it on you, and you're going to lose out on the sale. Then you're going to have this constant anxiety loop, right? Which is just, it's a constant, yeah? So when you have purpose, or when you're clear on what you're doing, that builds that clarity for you, then you're more able to take action because you know what you need to do and obviously why you're doing it, and then you have less anxiety because you're trusting in this entire process now. You guys with me? Yeah? Now, from overwhelm to action. So this is a simple framework that I used that doesn't rely on things like motivation. Number one, get specific about what's actually causing the resistance. A vague overwhelm can't be solved, and a named problem can. All right, so give me an example. What do you think a named problem that will cause you to procrastinate or feel like you're overwhelmed? Give me one.
Fear of rejection.
Perfect. So fear of rejection. So now we want to simplify it. Okay, so we want to stop looking at the whole mountain, and we want to identify that one step in front of you and only do that. All right, so the fear of rejection is at the end. You're thinking at the end, where they reject you. You're on a phone call with them, sales call, you're on a consult, and they reject you. They say no, and you feel like you failed. So that fear can be quite overwhelming, right? What's the first thing that you need to focus on your way to getting clearer on how to be able to be better at sales and what it is you actually need to improve in? What's the first step? What would you say? Okay, so I'll simplify it for you. The first step would be to not look at the fear of the person saying no, not the what if, not the if I do this, they're going to say that, I know it's going to happen. You go, okay, how can I manage my what?
Expectation.
Number one, of myself. The second thing would be, where's an area that I need to improve in so that I can be able to turn this fear of them saying no into a very, very, very absolute yes. I need to get better at sales, right? And then we delve into that a little bit deeper. Getting better at sales, what specifically do we need to get better at sales in? Objection handling. How do we get better at objection handling? Here's the information. What do we need to do? We're going to put it into practice. How do we practice? Role play. Right? So we go into role play and you get so good at role play and you practice every single type of objection known to man, which is only like 5 or 10. Right? You practice at getting so good at all of them so that the next time that you get an objection, your fear of failing isn't going to overwhelm you and cause you to lose out on this sale because you're calm and you understand how to be able to manage that whole process so much better. This is how then we systemize it, right? We systemize it by having a step process that we handle. This is why having a script is really good as a guide, right? So we handle objections by systemizing it and then by practicing it, especially through things like role play. So that's a really good example, fear of rejection. Anybody else got another one? I want one more. So what's a named problem that you feel will actually cause resistance? Or cause you to feel overwhelmed, or cause you to feel like you're procrastinating?
I feel like lack of time can cause you not to do it because you feel like you don't have enough time. And procrastinate in that regard.
Okay, so lack of time.
Says, I need this done by this time, and you think, okay, this is bigger than what I thought. Those thoughts start processing in your mind. It's the negative talk.
So you get overwhelmed, and then you leave it. Okay, cool.
I think I can do this.
Great. So lack of time. So the best thing to understand
It's
with
meeting those deadlines, basically. That's what
yeah. So the best thing to understand about that is, first and foremost, you're never going to actually be able to get perfect. This isn't actually a time thing. It's a perfectionism thing, right? So because I know you, I can say that. But if somebody says to me, Anthony, I haven't got enough time to do this task or these 4 tasks, I'm like, just try and get it done as best as you can, and then we'll refine it later, right? So I would say it wouldn't be a lack of time thing. It would be something along the lines of a perfectionism, right? So when we look at it from that perspective, that's the clear problem, perfectionism. What we need to do then is simplify it. So we stop looking at perfectionism as this is the problem of I have this mindset, I can't change it, it's just a part of who I am, and go, okay, why do I have this perfectionist mindset? Why do I feel like I have to do all these different things, even though I know I physically can't get them done in the time, why am I going to overwhelm myself to try to get it done in that time? As opposed to communicate, hey, this is actually a lot bigger than I thought. Could we break it up over 2 days? Right? And then the conversation around there becomes a lot clearer. The action plans become a lot clearer, because then you go, okay, if I know I've got 2 days now to get this task done that is essentially they wanted me to do it in 1 day. If I now have 2 days, what are the things I must get done today? What are the things that can get done tomorrow from the things that get done today? And then so by the end of the next day, by the end of tomorrow, I have the entire task completed the way I want it to be done, and then I send it through for final revision. Do you get what I mean? Versus my whole day is flipped upside down, or I have to stop everything I'm doing, get this one thing done, because if I don't, then my whole day is ruined. What happens then? You don't focus, because every little thing that comes your way that might kind of, as the day is, the days are never perfect. So something might come in, or something might come up, that might, take your mind off or take your concentration. You get overwhelmed, you get angry, you lose your focus and your concentration. So the best way to go about dealing with that kind of stuff, in my opinion, is we need to simplify the entire process. So stop focusing on this, I got perfectionist mindset, or it has to be done by today. Simplify it by doing 2 things in this context in particular. Communicate, and then break up the different steps that need to happen so that the task in the whole task can be done. It might have to take an extra day, okay, but the whole task can get done. But communication is really, really important with that. Then we systemize it. Then we go, okay, if I'm going to get tasks like this moving forward, right, or big tasks like this again, which could be the case, how can I be able to make sure that if that comes around again, we've got this system set up so we know how to attack it better? And then that's how we go. So instead of sitting in this overwhelmed state, we go, okay, this is easy now. Big task comes in, I know what I need to do, right? Because you're a part of a team, you know what you got to do. You know what Anna's got to do, for example, Alex, me. Everyone knows that they're all for this big task, and it's all done. Versus if it's just yourself, okay, these are the 10 steps that need to happen to make sure the task gets done perfectly, right? I've got an hour. I'm going to do this first 5, or this first 3. I'll have you know what I mean? Okay, on my shift today, I'm going to get the first 5 steps done. That will allow me to send it off for revision, and then the final steps get done tomorrow. Make sense? So that's an easy way to systemize it and simplify it so you're clearer and then you can actually take action better. Thanks for sharing, guys. Now, the next one, when we look at strength, okay, strength actually changes so much more than your body. Now, I want you guys to understand something. The goal isn't to be feel like you're motivated every day. That's not the goal. The goal is to build a mind and a system that's strong enough to act without this constant input of motivation. Yeah? Now, the reason why I say this is because we have a lot of times where we're working hard. Sometimes we can be overwhelmed and stressed. Sometimes we can be tired. It's part of life. We're doing so many different things in our day and in our lives. We're not always going to feel motivated, are we? Yeah? That's okay though. The focus isn't on motivation. My alarm goes off at 4:45 every morning. I'm telling you, I'm not motivated. I'm not. But I have this strength that goes, okay, you know what you got to get done today? If you can get these 3 things done today, you're going to really set yourself up for a successful week. So that's just my focus. The 3 things I have to get done every single day that I know will set me up for a better week or for a better day. And then the momentum builds. Then you start to feel motivated because you start to see the fruit of your labor. Or you start to feel motivated because you start to have better energy because you're sleeping better because you're going to bed feeling like you're more accomplished at the end of the day. Make sense? Or you simply are able to build a better routine because you're not trying to work against the clock and therefore you're working later than you should be and you can't exercise or you can't wind down early enough, all that kind of stuff, right? You start doing the things that fill your own cup so you can manage stress better, which means you have better energy and better recovery. So these are areas where you look at strength and how it changes more than just your body. It actually changes your mind and your entire mindset. Because once you have you build a mind and a system, those 2 things together can outwork for as long as you want these feelings of motivation. And will keep working, especially when you're not motivated. Do you get what I mean? So that's me for today. I appreciate you guys being here today. I hope that helped. I love this kind of topic. I could talk about this stuff all day. But a lot of my battles with my success in my career have come from this kind of stuff, and I really wanted to talk about it today, and I was happy to talk about it today because I've beaten that. I'm so past that. Like, there's no more procrastination for me, and it hasn't been for the last 2 or 3 years, right? And it's because of everything I just spoke about now. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much, guys. Everyone on YouTube, thanks for watching.